just the everything that has to do with brain health and happiness and really maximizing our potential all has to do with kind of our head, and so when you look at the opportunities that we have for a brain, for cognition, for reducing the symptoms of depression and anxiety, just trying to maximize happiness. There are a lot of things that we can do. So instead of focusing so much on the problem, I'm going to talk a little bit more on the solutions. And so I think by now, most of America and the world is understanding some of the issues we have with mental illness. The statistics are really hard to even make sense of, because to get statistics that say someone says, hey, I'm not happy, or I'm depressed, or I have bad deep thoughts in my brain, or I'm anxious, or I'm up and down. For someone to actually go and talk to a doctor, to get a diagnosis, to get recorded, to become a statistic, it's really hard to consider really what's reported, what's accurate. But what they are reporting is bad enough, in the sense that they're saying that over 50 million people are diagnosed with some form of mental illness, and that could be depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, substance abuse. And so with that such high number, that's diagnosed. And so some literature says there's 50 million people with depression and another 50 million diagnosed with anxiety. So again, we're getting close to about a third of the population, and that's again reported or diagnosed. But what about the people that just get up and go through the job, and they're in their days, every day is the same, this tape just keeps going, but they're suffering from depression or anxiety or some form of mood disorder, just meaning that they're not as happy as they want to be. But they don't tell anyone about it. They don't want to go and tell their doctor about it, because they know the solution is going to be put on medicines. And so, we ask ourselves, if we have a mental illness crisis, it's an epidemic. Those numbers are epidemic proportions. I mean, pandemic proportions, if you really want to talk about it worldwide, especially after some of the things that have happened over the last 3 years. So if we have this mental illness crisis, and you sit there and you go, well, how can this be when we have so many solutions out there? You would think that if we're one of the most developed countries, and we spend more money on our healthcare than any other country, that we would have so many solutions that mental illness would actually be going down. But instead, it's going up. Suicide rates going up. In some states, they won't even report the suicide rate because of the last 2 years, because it's so traumatic. So when you really consider that, you have to think that whatever is currently in place to help people with mental illness, pharmaceuticals, counseling, things of that sort, obviously aren't working, or the rates of mental illness are so fast that they can't keep pace with the options or therapies out there. Some of both of it's true, because there are people that cannot afford to go see a doctor because they don't feel well, because they feel sad, they feel depressed, they're tired, they don't want to get out of bed, they have thoughts of suicide, they have thoughts of just bad thoughts more than good thoughts. They just can't afford to take off work. They can't afford to go see a doctor. They don't have health insurance. They can't afford the medicines. So what happens is a lot of people start self-medicating, which you can obviously see can then just make the situation worse. So self-medicating could be in the form of alcohol, other drugs, eating food to increase their weight. But there's a direct correlation with mental illness and just disease in general. So this is just not a disease of the brain. When you have a disease of the brain, it causes disease of the body. And that comes back to that whole fact that what the brain can conceive, the body can achieve. And so when the brain starts not feeling well, it throws everybody off, their lifestyle off. And by the time they actually realize just how deep it is, it's already affected them, and it's likely already affected the people around them. And so, when you kind of consider that, you have to start thinking logically that if you are having symptoms that just anything that just makes you feel, if you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, am I happy? Am I as happy as I can be? And if your answer is no, then the next question has to be, well, why aren't you happy? And if you can't sit there and write down things that make you happy and things that make you unhappy, and then start to try to form some sort of a plan to say, well, this is my life. I'm in control of if I'm happy or not. These are the things that make me happy. These are the things that don't make me happy. And start to put a plan together to try to focus on the things that make you happy and get rid of the things that don't make you happy. It seems like such a logical, simple thing to do. But the problem is, by the time we get to that point, where you really want to start making a change, you're really in a situation that's really deep and really hard to break that tape and break that cycle that happens every day, and it's not easy. And I'll be the first person to tell you, because in when you're in a medical career, especially when you start out your medical career in family medicine, there's a lot of counseling and a lot of focus on mental illness, because it's one of the most dominant reasons that people go to the emergency room, and dominant reasons that people go to see their doctor, is because they just don't feel happy enough. And so, kind of looking at where we are right now, and the thoughts that, mental illness continues to rise, and despite all of the solutions that have been there and the solutions that they keep trying to put out there, you have to start thinking about the basics again. And so I don't want to keep getting into numbers, because I can go over statistics about mental illness, but to me, they don't mean a whole lot, because I don't really even understand how you can get these numbers when most of the people don't even go to their doctors to tell them that they have these symptoms. So they're very skewed. So instead, if you just sit there and think about what are the solutions and what can I do to try to make some of these symptoms go away, the answer is going back to the basics again. I always, everything about our company, about what my practice of medicine is, a lot of doctors that practice the way I do, they consider themselves lifestyle doctors. This is lifestyle medicine. Whether it's functional and integrative, you can call it a bunch of different things, but the whole concept is lifestyle, because lifestyle is medicine. And I always say that, so if you can focus on your lifestyle, you can pull yourself out of a lot of these things. Because unfortunately, when you have conditions that they can diagnose, but they have no cures for them, and the treatments that they have aren't doing anything because the rates of the illness keep going up, you have to sit there and think, okay, well, I can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result. So there's so many people, they say that 33% of pharmaceutical uses for mental illness are actually successful. Well, that's not a cure. That's just diminishing or reducing the symptoms that they have. So without any cures, you have to start thinking that you have to take a little bit of responsibility for your health and for your mental health, and start trying to make things, logic changes. That's all based off of one thing, and that's being happy. So when you start to understand the things that make you happy and make you unhappy, and start with that, you also have to start thinking of the exact things that start changing the neurochemicals in your brain that make you happy. And so looking at solutions, we again, going back to the basics, is lifestyle, sleep, diet, and exercise. We know that if you can make changes that to do some of the things that are scientifically supported, that can increase the neurochemicals in your brain, that can equate to a happier mood, a better outlook, happier with yourself, increasing your confidence. All these things are going to make you happy. And a lot of times when you talk to people that say, I'm just not happy, and you ask them why. Well, why aren't you happy? Because ultimately you're in control. You're in control of everything that makes you happy or makes you unhappy. Yes, you can't snap your finger and have an immediate change in your life, but you can slowly make changes that then, of course, are obviously going to make you feel better and better and better about yourself as you continue to make changes that support what makes you happy and gets rid of what makes you unhappy. And so, you start looking at kind of our situation in the United States, and how it kind of comes back to lifestyle. Well, a high percentage of the people that claim that they're or have been diagnosed with depression or anxiety, like I said, most of them are self-medicating. Most of the time it's with alcohol, which is a depressant, which reduces the proteins in our brains and actually can be inflammatory to our brains and our immune response. And then the other thing is they're more apt to smoke. There's almost a direct correlation with being overweight and having symptoms of mental illness. And so you can kind of start, and then I also talk about that only about 30%, less than 30% of the population exercises. And even when they exercise, the quality of the exercise is still not what you would really consider optimal. And so you can see that lifestyle is not being focused on, which is exactly why we're just seeing this continual rise in mental illness. If everyone just focused on the fact that people that have the right muscle to body fat ratio, or just being near their ideal body weight, if they get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, quality sleep, if they don't overuse drugs, especially not depressants, and they exercise 3 to 4 days a week, if they do that for a period of time, I usually like to say 3 to 6 months, people feel better automatically. Just doing those things make people feel better. So you can see how it does start with lifestyle. You know, when you start looking at the correlation between obesity and mental illness, and you start finding out that it's almost a 1-to-1 correlation, you know that obviously cleaning up your diet and getting rid of the inflammatory foods, improving your water intake, and because it makes you feel better, it makes you more confident, and it directly affects the energy production in your body. And so when you just think of this just as easy as just energy production, when you do the things in lifestyle that create more energy, that energy is exactly what creates the neurotransmitters and brings balance to your brain. And so without good sleep, certain amount of exercise, and at least somewhat of an anti-inflammatory and alkaline diet, or some sort of an eating program that's going to equate to reducing body fat, it's pretty hard for anyone to say, or expect to feel the best they can. And so when you're looking, kind of at the solutions that we have, I keep mentioning that, disease, whether it's mental or physical disease, all has a mitochondrial root. Mitochondria, I talked about a couple Q&As ago. Those are the organelles in all of our living cells other than our red blood cells. And so they basically are the organelles that produce energy in our body. And anybody with chronic disease are having some sort of dysfunction in those organelles that make energy. And so the more as you age, the more bad habits, genetic components, anything that's going to affect your energy production is going to start to create symptoms. And so if you think about it that way, all you're trying to do is to improve your energy production so that you can have more focused energy on creating neurotransmitters that are going to make us happy. And so you look at all the products that we have, one study shows that like NAD, and nicotinic adenine dinucleotide, which is one of my favorite products, I always talk about it. It's an injectable a derivative of niacin, or vitamin B3. And 93% of people that have taken NAD that have symptoms of mental illness improve. And it's not overnight. It's because NAD is an energy molecule. It's exactly what we're trying to put into our bodies and naturally decline with age and with bad habits. So by giving NAD, you start to give your body the energy that they can that can directly contribute to neurotransmitter formation, which can improve your mood. So sometimes you have to start with some of the things just to start getting you the energy, so where you can do more than just what you do every day that's not working. And so you have NAD, you have other peptides like MOTC, which is a mitochondrial peptide, again, improving your mitochondrial energy production. And then bottom line is that you have to work on sleep hygiene. Sleep is a process that our deep stages of sleep are so important that just working on going to bed between 10 and midnight and getting up between 6 and 8 in the morning if you can, that's when our circadian rhythm works the best. That is the sleep cycle that seems to be the easiest for people to manage. If you're a shift worker, or if you have work that doesn't allow you to do that, you still have to shoot for that 6 to 8 hours of deep quality sleep. And I do tell people that you should try to get some sort of a device that can track your sleep, so you can have some sort of a measurement of your deep and your REM, so you can actually make corrections and see what's working for your quality of your sleep. And then other things, I always say intermittent fasting, science-supported reasoning, or science-supported eating strategy that can increase your NAD levels, help with mitochondrial function, support your neurotransmitters, and then of course exercise. Exercise is given; it naturally releases happy hormones or endorphins in our body. It is what reduces body fat. It reduces inflammation. It's a good stress and coping mechanism. And these are things that you can directly, just by lifestyle, improve your mental wellness just from doing these things. And of course, you're going to get the benefits of losing weight, increasing muscle mass, reducing the chances of having disease. But the other big thing that you're going to find is that, the correlation between electronics, social media, the TVs. We are getting lazier and lazier as a society. The whole concept of technology has really changed everything. And so I think that when you start understanding just how drastic relationships are in the United States now, or the non-existence of relationships, you're going to see that why this is happening to so many different age groups. Why kids why kids that are below 13 years of age want to commit suicide. Kids that are between 9 and 13, or even go up to 15 or 16, these are years when kids are bulletproof from mental illness. They should have zero stress. This is the happiest years. Their brains are just sponges, and they're just full of happiness. But not now, because when you look at the pressures of the amount of eye contact and eye focus on social media and on games and on tablets and phones and TVs, these kids are not having the same interactions and the same outdoor activities that we used to. This is directly affecting the way they have relationships. The relationships now are over the phone or over a tablet or talking while they're playing video games. Relationships have gotten to the point where neighbors don't even want to meet new neighbors next door. They actually try to avoid them. And so when you see this disconnection in personal interaction and relationships, and then you have a pandemic that basically separates families and friends and really segregated people into their houses and all this fear, you can see how relationships and and electronics and the internet has also directly affected how people have relationships. Now you're watching teenagers that are having relationships over the phone and through text messaging. They're breaking up and dating through applications, and sometimes don't even see each other until 3, 4, 5 months after texting, but feel that that's a relationship. These are things that become super stressful when you don't have that personal contact. Or that's not how mammals work. That's not how animals work, and they don't have issues. You're not seeing all these animals out there having running into and committing suicide, is because they haven't changed. They don't have the influences that we have right now with change in our economy and changes in our technology. So it's kind of interesting when you look, and I'm sure if you look at animal studies, you'll see that these types of stressors are not applicable, and so that this technological change has been a real strong enforcer of detachment for our youths. And so if you can do anything, is to really try to make sure that your kids are active, and make sure that your kids have time off of their electronics, and really make them pick up the phone and invite friends over, and have at least try to have personal contact with many people as they can. That goes for adults too, but at this point, our youths are the one that scare me the most, just because the rise of mental illness, when it starts hitting our youth, is very scary, because that's just not supposed to happen to kids. And so, if you can be an example, it is to change your lifestyle, start doing the things that you need to do, because you cannot look in the mirror and go to your doctor and sit there and say, I am unhappy, I feel sad, I'm depressed, I don't feel good, if you do not have any of your lifestyle in place, because that is where it's going to start. You don't need them to prescribe you a drug. You do not need them to tell you need to go to talk to someone. You can do those things, but historically, those things have been around for years, and yet here we are getting more and more cases of mental illness. So when that happens, you have to step back, take a look, and see what you can do for yourself, knowing that when you have good sleep, you have a good exercise regimen, and you have a clean diet, and you sustain that for a certain number of months, you will find out that you do feel better. You feel happier. You start getting more confident. You start having more sex. You start having more relationships with friends. You get out of the house more often. All of these things contribute to happiness. And so if you just realize that happiness is completely in your control, and so if you're really feeling deep and you're really feeling depressed, or anxiety is starting to affect your ability to cope and your activities of daily living, by all means, reach out to someone. But understand that the core solution for you to beat mental illness is lifestyle. So just understand that we have a lot of solutions at TeleWellness, but all of this is to support lifestyle, which is free. If you guys just realize that, and you start making little changes, every little change you make makes you feel lighter, makes you feel better, and sets you up for success, because you can just kind of roll on this positive actions and get into a positive health cycle. And yes, there are things that you can do if you are really deep and you need help an immediate help, you can go seek out medical attention, but understand no matter what they do, you have to put your own action plan in place, and that's going to be a shortcut for you getting your life back and really focusing on what makes you happy. And once you start focusing on what makes you happy, you're going to be on a completely different path. There are a lot of things out there also. I'm someone that's provided ketamine in my office for a little over 8 years, almost 9 years. And so if you have any people that are suicidal or are really, really deep with mental illness, have them look up ketamine infusions, because, statistically right now, there's nothing that is more successful for people with suicidal ideation. I believe completely that nobody should commit suicide. You have to catch them early. So look for the signs that people might have that they are that deep or that dark. And make sure you tell them to seek some therapies like that, because that can be at least something to get them to get out of that suicidal ideation and give them time to repair and recover, just so we don't lose another person to suicide. So take this serious, guys. If you don't worry about the cosmetics of lifestyle, you're doing this to look and to feel the best you can, and obviously, you can get the benefits of looking good. That obviously makes people feel better and more confident. But this is really for preventing disease, especially mental illness. Just focus on sleep, diet, and exercise, and look at all the different things that we can do to help you get to that point faster. So everyone, take this month serious, and if you have anybody that's hurting, please reach out to them and tell them that there are solutions, and just help them and guide them to make sure that they're safe. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.